Listen to me carefully. What is about to happen in your life has never happened before. Not for your family, not for your ancestors, not for the people who walked the same roads you walked, prayed the same prayers you prayed, or cried the same tears you cried. What God is about to do has never been done before, and it is reserved for you alone. This is not a borrowed blessing, not a recycled miracle, not a hand-me-down favor passed through generations. This is something new, something unheard of, something God has kept hidden until this very moment, and it carries your name. If your heart is beating faster right now, it is because your spirit recognizes the truth. God is not repeating history. God is creating a moment that will stand outside of history, and you are standing at the center of it. You may have come here tired. You may have come here confused. You may have come here carrying disappointment that words cannot describe. You may have asked yourself in the quiet of the night, why has it taken so long? Why does it seem like others move forward while I remain stuck? Why does my prayer feel heavier than my strength? But hear this with absolute clarity. Delay is not denial when God is involved. Waiting is not rejection when God is shaping something that has never existed before. God does not rush unique work. God does not mass produce destiny. When something has never been done before, God takes time. Not because God is slow, but because God is intentional. You have been measuring your life by what you see around you, but God has been measuring your life by what is about to be revealed through you. You looked at doors that stayed closed and assumed you were forgotten. You looked at silence and assumed God had turned away, but silence is often the sound of preparation. When God intends to do something unprecedented, God speaks less and works deeper. What you thought was abandonment was actually separation. God pulled you away so that what is coming would not be contaminated by voices that cannot understand it. Understand this, God has never been limited by your background. God has never been intimidated by your weaknesses. God has never been surprised by your failures. The thing that disqualified you in your own eyes is the very thing God chose to demonstrate power. God does not need perfection to create something new. God needs willingness. God needs surrender. God needs a heart that says, even when I do not understand, I trust you. That is the soil where unprecedented miracles are planted. You were not born by accident. You were not shaped by coincidence. You were not preserved through what should have destroyed you for no reason. Every moment you survived when you should have collapsed was evidence that God was protecting something rare. Ordinary lives break under ordinary pressure, but you endured extraordinary pressure because you carry an extraordinary assignment. God never wastes suffering. God never ignores tears. God never allows pain without purpose. What nearly crushed you was actually refining you for something the world has not yet seen. Do not misunderstand this moment. This is not a motivational idea meant to excite you temporarily. This is a spiritual declaration meant to realign your vision permanently. God is not about to improve your situation slightly. God is about to redefine what is possible through you. You have been asking God to change circumstances, but God has been changing capacity. You asked for relief, but God built resilience. You asked for answers, but God built authority. And now the season is shifting, not because you asked louder, but because you are ready. There are blessings that can be received casually, and then there are blessings that require transformation. What God is preparing for you belongs to the second category. You could not receive it as you were before. The weight of it would have crushed you. The responsibility of it would have overwhelmed you. So God worked on you quietly, deeply, patiently. While others were applauded publicly, you were shaped privately. While others were celebrated, you were secluded. While others were promoted, you were processed. And now the process is producing something that cannot be explained by logic. You must stop comparing your journey to anyone else's journey. Comparison blinds you to uniqueness. When God does something that has never been done before, there is no reference point. There is no example to follow. There is no pattern to copy. That is why you felt lost. That is why you felt alone. That is why advice from others did not fully fit your situation. You were not meant to follow footsteps. You were meant to leave them. God was not preparing you to fit into a system. God was preparing a system to be built through you. Hear this deeply. God has never done this before, because God has never needed someone exactly like you before. Your personality, your history, your sensitivity, your strength, your compassion, your resilience, all of it is intentional. Nothing is wasted, nothing is random. Even the parts of you that others misunderstood are essential to what God is about to release. God does not call replicas. God calls originals. There are moments when God steps into a life and breaks patterns that have lasted for generations. Poverty patterns, fear patterns, failure patterns, limitation patterns. You thought you were just struggling personally, but God was positioning you to become a breaking point in a lineage. What stopped others will stop with you. What limited others will not limit you. What silenced others will amplify your voice. God is not only blessing you, God is making you a testimony of what divine intervention can do when it meets surrendered faith. You must change the way you speak about yourself. Words are not decorations, they are declarations. When you speak weakness, you agree with limitation. When you speak fear, you empower resistance. But when you speak alignment with God's purpose, you activate authority. Do not say, I cannot. Say, God is able. Do not say, it is too late. Say, God is timeless. Do not say, I am behind. Say, God orders my steps. Language reveals alignment. Speak like someone who knows that something unprecedented is forming behind the scenes. Faith is not pretending everything is fine. Faith is standing when evidence suggests you should sit down. Faith is moving when logic says wait. Faith is trusting when explanation is unavailable. God is not asking you to understand everything. God is asking you to believe one thing, that what is coming is greater than what you have endured. You did not survive all of this to end in disappointment. You did not endure all of this to plateau. You did not come this far to remain unseen. God's timing is exact, and you are not late. You are right on schedule. Right now, there is a divine stirring happening in your spirit. That restlessness you feel is not dissatisfaction, it is anticipation. God is awakening something that was dormant. God is reminding you of dreams you buried because they hurt too much to carry. God is breathing life into hope that felt foolish. Do not suppress it. Do not explain it away. Do not let fear talk you out of what faith is awakening. When God revisits a promise, it is because fulfillment is near. You may not see it yet, but heaven is already responding. Doors are aligning. Resistance is weakening. Obstacles are repositioning. What once required force will soon require favor. What once demanded struggle will soon respond to obedience. This is how God works when something new is being introduced. There is turbulence before transformation. There is shaking before settling. Do not misinterpret the movement as chaos. It is adjustment. God is about to trust you with influence you never sought but were prepared for. God is about to entrust you with responsibility that will require humility as much as strength. God is about to place you in spaces where your presence will shift atmosphere. This is not for ego. This is not for status. This is for purpose. And purpose always carries weight. That is why God prepared your character before releasing your capacity. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not delayed. You are being unveiled. And when God unveils what has been hidden, the impact is undeniable. People will ask how it happened. They will search for explanations. They will try to trace it back to strategy or connections or luck, but you will know the truth. It was God doing what God has never done before through someone who chose to trust even when nothing made sense. Hold your position. Guard your faith. Strengthen your spirit. Do not retreat now. Do not settle now. Do not doubt now. You are closer than you think. The silence is breaking. The waiting is ending. The unseen is becoming visible. And what God is about to do will speak louder than anything you could have said. There are moments in life when God draws a line in time and says, from this point forward, everything changes. You are standing at such a moment now. This is not a transition you stumbled into by chance. This is not a coincidence wrapped in emotion. This is a divine appointment. God has been watching every step you took, every decision you made, every time you chose integrity over convenience, faith over fear, perseverance over surrender. And now God is responding, not casually, not incrementally, but decisively. When God decides to act in a way that has never been done before, it is because the moment demands it and the vessel can handle it. You must understand that God does not act out of impulse. God acts out of purpose. When God prepares to do something unprecedented, it is because ordinary methods are no longer sufficient. Your situation requires more than a common solution. Your calling demands more than a familiar approach. What you are facing cannot be solved by human wisdom alone, and that is precisely why God has stepped in. God specializes in moments where human explanation fails. God reveals power most clearly where limitation is undeniable. There is a reason your journey has been unconventional. There is a reason your path has felt isolated. There is a reason you have often felt as though you were walking ahead of understanding and behind recognition. God was positioning you outside the crowd so that when the breakthrough arrives, it will be unmistakably divine. When something has never been done before, it cannot emerge from familiar environments. God removes what is familiar so that what is eternal can be established. Do not underestimate the spiritual authority that has been built in you through endurance. Authority is not given lightly, it is forged. Every time you chose to trust God when circumstances contradicted your faith, authority increased. Every time you refused bitterness and chose obedience, authority increased. Every time you stayed when leaving would have been easier, authority increased. And now you carry a weight in the spirit that you did not have before. You may not feel different on the surface, but internally something has shifted. You speak differently, you pray differently, you perceive differently. This is the evidence that God has been preparing you for a level you have not yet entered. There are people who receive blessings and remain unchanged. Then there are people who are changed so deeply that blessings follow them naturally. God has chosen the second path for you. Instead of giving you something temporary, God reshaped you permanently. Instead of answering one prayer, God expanded your capacity to carry many answers. Instead of fixing one problem, God elevated you beyond the reach of the problem altogether. This is why the process felt intense. God was not just helping you survive. God was preparing you to lead, influence, and transform. You must release the belief that struggle means failure. Some of the greatest divine movements begin in obscurity and resistance. Pressure does not always mean opposition. Sometimes it means acceleration. Resistance strengthens what comfort weakens. God allowed resistance because what is coming requires strength that comfort could not produce. If God had removed the pressure too early, you would have arrived unprepared. But now you are fortified. Now you are grounded. Now you are stable enough to receive what would have overwhelmed you before. God is not impressed by appearances, but God responds to alignment. When your heart aligns with divine purpose, circumstances eventually follow. Alignment does not mean perfection, it means sincerity. It means obedience even when the reward is invisible. It means faithfulness even when recognition is absent. It means continuing to believe even when outcomes are delayed. God honors this kind of posture. And when God honors it, the result is not subtle. There is a breaking happening beneath the surface. Old limitations are dissolving. Internal ceilings are being lifted. Mindsets that once constrained, you are losing their grip. You are no longer thinking from survival. You are thinking from vision. You are no longer reacting from fear. You are responding from wisdom. This is not accidental. This is preparation. God is expanding your internal landscape so that you can inhabit a larger external reality. Do not allow past disappointments to define future expectations. What God is about to do will not resemble what failed before. You tried before with limited understanding. You moved before with incomplete clarity. You believed before with partial strength. But now you are different. Now your discernment is sharper. Now your faith is deeper. Now your dependence on God is complete. This time is not a repetition, it is a revelation. God is about to demonstrate that faith anchored in truth is unstoppable. When faith is rooted in ego, it collapses under pressure. When faith is rooted in approval, it withers under criticism. But when faith is rooted in God, it becomes immovable. You have reached that place now. You are no longer seeking validation. You are seeking alignment. And alignment releases power. There will be moments ahead when you will be tempted to doubt what God has spoken internally because the external has not yet changed. In those moments, remember this, what God declares begins in the unseen before it manifests in the visible. Creation itself began with a word before it became a world. The unseen is not imaginary, it is foundational. What is forming around you has already been established beyond what your eyes can detect. Hold your confidence steady. Do not rush the manifestation by sacrificing peace. God is teaching you to walk by trust, not by urgency. Urgency creates anxiety. Trust creates stability. What is stable can sustain growth. What is rushed often collapses under its own weight. God is not late. God is precise. Every delay has been calibrated. Every pause has been purposeful. Nothing has been wasted. Nothing has been overlooked. You are entering a season where obedience will matter more than effort. Effort can exhaust you. Obedience aligns you. When you move in obedience, God moves in power. When you rest in obedience, God works on your behalf. This is the shift you are feeling. You are no longer striving to prove anything. You are positioning yourself to receive everything God intends. Expect resistance to increase briefly before it dissolves completely. This is not a sign to retreat. It is confirmation that you are close. Darkness resists most aggressively when it knows its influence is ending. But do not engage it emotionally. Do not argue with doubt. Do not wrestle with fear. Stand firm in what you know. Authority does not shout, it stands. God is about to do something through you that will cause others to reconsider what they be. Believed was possible. Not because you are exceptional on your own, but because you are surrendered. Surrender is the gateway to divine expression. When ego steps aside, power flows freely. When control is released, guidance becomes clear. You are not losing control. You are gaining direction. There is a future version of you that is already walking in what you are praying for now. That future is not imaginary. It is inevitable if you remain aligned. God sees you not only as you are, but as you will be when purpose fully unfolds. And God is committed to completing what has begun. God does not start what God does not intend to finish. Let your heart remain soft even as your faith becomes strong. Compassion will protect you from pride. Gratitude will protect you from entitlement. Humility will protect you from isolation. God elevates those who remain teachable. God entrusts those who remain grateful. God expands those who remain faithful in unseen places. This is not the end of your waiting, it is the end of your wondering. You will no longer question whether God is involved. You will no longer doubt whether your prayers were heard. The clarity that is coming will quiet every internal argument. Peace will replace anxiety. Confidence will replace hesitation. Direction will replace confusion. Stay present. Stay receptive. Stay faithful. What God is about to do cannot be rushed, but it also cannot be stopped. The moment is approaching. The shift is underway. The unseen is aligning with the seen. And what God is about to release will stand as proof that when God chooses a life, nothing remains ordinary. There is a sacred weight carried by those chosen for uncommon purpose, and you have felt it even when you could not name it. It is the weight of responsibility before the reward, the burden of vision before manifestation. Many want the outcome without the cost, the elevation without the refining, the promise without the preparation. But God entrusted you with the weight first because God knew you would not abandon it when it became heavy. This is why you endured seasons where joy felt distant, but commitment remained strong. God was watching how you carried what could not yet be explained. When God prepares to do something never done before, God reshapes the inner life before altering the outer world. You were being trained to carry silence without losing faith, to carry delay without losing devotion, to carry pressure without losing purpose. This training was not visible to others, but it was visible to God. And what God sees, God remembers. Nothing offered in faith is ever lost. Nothing endured in obedience is ever ignored. There were times when you questioned your own discernment, wondering if what you sensed was imagination or truth. But what stirred in you was not illusion, it was invitation. God plants awareness before revelation. God allows you to feel what is coming before you see it, so that your spirit can expand before your environment does. That internal stretching was necessary. Without it, you would have resisted what God is now ready to release. God is not simply giving you something new. God is positioning you to become something new. The transformation is not cosmetic, it is foundational. You are being reshaped at the level of identity. You are no longer defined by survival, but by stewardship. You are no longer defined by react, but by intention. You are no longer driven by fear of loss, but by confidence in provision. This internal shift is the true miracle. External change will follow naturally. Understand this truth. Clearly, God does not elevate people to impress others. God elevates people to establish purpose. Visibility is not the goal. Impact is. Influence is not about recognition. It is about responsibility. God is preparing you to carry influence without being controlled by it. To carry opportunity without being consumed by it. To carry increase without losing integrity. This is rare. This is why the process was demanding. You are stepping into a season where discernment will be more valuable than speed. Not every open door is yours to walk through. Not every opportunity aligns with your assignment. God will guide you, not by pressure, but by peace. Learn to listen deeply. Learn to pause confidently. When God leads, clarity accompanies obedience. Confusion accompanies compromise. Choose alignment over applause. There will be moments when others will not understand your restraint. They will call it hesitation when it is wisdom. They will call it delay when it is discernment. Do not explain yourself to those who do not share your vision. God did not consult the crowd when shaping your purpose. God spoke to your spirit, not to public opinion. Stay anchored. What God is about to do through you will challenge assumptions, not through argument, but through evidence. When God moves, explanation becomes unnecessary. Fruit speaks. Transformation testifies. Impact persuades. Your life will communicate what words cannot. And those who once doubted will quietly observe, not because you did them wrong, but because God proved faithful. You are learning that trust is not passive. It is active surrender. Trust means releasing the need to control outcomes while remaining committed to obedience. Trust means continuing to move forward even when certainty is incomplete. Trust means believing that God's wisdom exceeds your understanding. This posture unlocks favor that effort alone cannot produce. God is also teaching you the power of rest. Not rest as avoidance, but rest as confidence. Rest declares that you believe God is working even when you are still. Rest declares that you do not need to force what God has already ordained. Rest preserves clarity. Anxiety distorts perception. Guard your peace fiercely. Peace is not weakness, it is alignment. There is an anointing that flows only through humility. Pride restricts divine movement. Humility invites it. You have learned to acknowledge dependence without losing strength, to admit need without losing dignity. This balance is powerful. God trusts those who know where their strength comes from. God moves freely through those who do not attempt to take credit for what only divine power can accomplish. The days ahead will require courage, but not the loud kind. They will require quiet resolve, steady faith, and consistent obedience. Courage will be expressed through patience. Strength will be expressed through restraint. Power will be expressed through wisdom. This is maturity. This is readiness. You will notice that what once intimidated you no longer holds the same power. Challenges will appear, but they will not destabilize you. Opposition may arise, but it will not define you. Your foundation has changed. You are no longer building on emotion or expectation, but on conviction. Conviction anchored in truth cannot be shaken by circumstance. God is inviting you to trust the process even as the process concludes. Transition can feel disorienting because familiar struggles are ending, but new responsibilities are beginning. Do not cling to old identities formed in survival. You are no longer who you were in those moments. God has moved you forward. Let go with gratitude, not regret. What is ahead will require generosity of spirit. As God increases your influence, opportunities to become guarded or self-protective will arise. Resist them. Keep your heart open, flow freely. What God supplies does not diminish when shared. What God entrusts multiplies when released. Scarcity thinking belongs to old seasons. Abundance thinking belongs to where you are going. You are not being rushed into this next phase. You are being invited into it. Step forward without fear. Walk with awareness. Move with confidence. God goes before you, prepares the way, and walks beside you. You are not navigating this alone. Divine guidance surrounds every step. There will come moments when you will look back and realize that what once felt unbearable was actually essential. Gratitude will replace confusion. Understanding will replace frustration. Peace will replace questions. And in those moments, you will recognize that God was not withholding. You were being prepared. Remain faithful in the unseen moments, even as the visible begins to change. Consistency sustains growth. Integrity preserves blessing. Gratitude anchors joy. Let these remain your companions. What God has initiated cannot be undone. What God has spoken cannot fail. What God has prepared cannot be stolen. The work is secure because its source is eternal. You stand on the threshold of something rare, something intentional, something divinely crafted, and as it unfolds, it will be clear, not just to you, but to all who witness it, that God has indeed done what had never been done before. There is a holy tension you are learning to live within. The tension between promise and fulfillment, between what God has spoken internally and what has not yet appeared externally. This tension is not meant to torment you, it is meant to mature you. Those who cannot carry tension will never carry transformation. God allows this space so your faith grows roots instead of wings, depth instead of display. What is shallow is easily excited. What is deep is quietly confident. You are no longer chasing moments, you are anchored in conviction. God is teaching you to recognize the difference between movement and momentum. Not everything that looks active is productive. Not everything that feels urgent is important. Momentum is created when action aligns with purpose. God has slowed you down at times not to delay you, but to align you. Alignment creates acceleration without exhaustion. When God moves you forward now, it will not drain you, it will sustain you. You have outgrown certain prayers. You used to ask God for survival, for relief, for escape. Now your spirit asks for wisdom, for discernment, for stewardship. This evolution is evidence of growth. God does not keep answering old prayers when new capacities have been formed. God invites you into higher conversations. You are no longer asking merely to be delivered from difficulty. You are asking to be shaped through it. There is also a new sensitivity forming within you, a sensitivity to timing. You are learning when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait, when to push and when to trust. This sensitivity is not hesitation, it is spiritual intelligence. God communicates not only through instruction, but through timing. Those who learn timing walk with precision. Precision produces impact. You will notice that some relationships no longer fit where you are going. This is not rejection, it is redirection. God is not removing people to punish you or them. God is making room for alignment. Every season has its companions. What supported you in survival may not support you in expansion. Release without resentment. Honor without attachment. Trust that God orchestrates connections as carefully as purpose. God is also refining how you see yourself. You are no longer viewing your life through the lens of deficiency, but through the lens of assignment. Weakness is no longer a verdict. It is a signal for dependence. Dependence on God does not diminish strength. It multiplies it. When you stop pretending to be sufficient on your own, divine sufficiency fills the space. You have learned that obedience is not always dramatic. Often it is quiet consistency. It is showing up when no one applauds. It is choosing integrity when compromise would be easier. It is maintaining faith when results are slow. These quiet acts accumulate authority. God values faithfulness more than flair, and faithfulness attracts trust. There will be moments ahead when success tries to redefine you. Praise will come, attention will come, opportunity will come. In those moments, remember who you were when no one saw you but God. Remember the prayers whispered in private. Remember the tears that fell without witnesses. Let memory guard humility. Let gratitude anchor perspective. God is not giving you influence to elevate ego, but to extend impact. Influence is stewardship, not entitlement. The higher you go, the more carefully you must listen. The more visible you become, the more deeply rooted you must remain. God entrusts influence to those who understand that authority flows from alignment, not from position. You will also encounter moments when you are tempted to doubt because the outcome looks different than expected. God rarely fulfills purpose in the exact form imagined. Vision gives direction, not detail. Flexibility within obedience allows God to exceed expectation. Do not cling to a specific outcome so tightly that you miss the greater one God is unveiling. God is expanding your understanding of provision. Provision is not only material, it is emotional, relational, spiritual. God provides peace when clarity is incomplete. God provides strength when energy is low. God provides insight when answers are scarce. Learn to recognize provision in all its forms. Gratitude sharpens awareness. There is a quiet confidence forming in you now. You are less reactive, less anxious, less driven by approval. This is the confidence that comes from knowing you are aligned. Aligned people do not compete, they complete. Aligned people do not rush, they trust. Aligned people do not fear loss, they understand source. God is also preparing you to stand firm when tested. Testing does not mean failure is near. It means strength is being confirmed. What cannot be shaken will remain. What is superficial will fall away. Do not fear the testing. It reveals what is real. As you move forward, guard your inner life carefully. What you allow into your thoughts shapes what you release into the world. Protect your focus, protect your peace, protect your faith. Not everything deserves your attention. Discernment is as important as action. You are learning that obedience sometimes means doing less, not more. Resting when driven by pressure. Pausing when tempted to prove. Waiting when pushed to hurry. These choices require faith. They declare that you trust God's timing more than human urgency. God has been faithful in hidden ways long before visible change appeared. Reflect on that faithfulness. Let it remind you that God does not abandon what God begins. Let it strengthen you when progress feels slow. Let it anchor you when emotions fluctuate. You are stepping into a phase where your life will quietly testify, not through noise, but through consistency, not through force, but through fruit. What grows naturally lasts longer than what is forced. Remain attentive, remain humble, remain expectant. God is still speaking. God is still shaping. God is still unfolding what was promised. And as this unfolds, it will continue to reveal layers of purpose you could not have imagined at the beginning. There is a refining fire that only touches those chosen for uncommon outcomes. And you have walked through it without fully realizing what it was shaping within you. Fire does not exist to destroy what is genuine. It exists to remove what is unnecessary. God allowed intensity not to consume you, but to clarify you. What remains now is stronger, purer, and more aligned than ever before. You are no longer carrying excess weight from fear, insecurity, or false expectations. What remains is essential, and what is essential is powerful. God is awakening a deeper courage within you, not the courage that reacts, but the courage that remains steady when circumstances fluctuate. This courage does not need validation. It does not demand immediate results. It is the courage that knows God's word stands regardless of delay. You are learning to stand firm without becoming rigid, to remain open without becoming unstable. This balance is rare, and it is cultivated intentionally. You are also being taught how to see beyond the moment. Many people live confined to what is immediate, what is urgent, what is visible. But God is training your vision to perceive layers, to sense trajectory, to understand consequence. You are beginning to move with foresight rather than impulse. This is not caution, this is wisdom. Wisdom allows you to act decisively without acting recklessly. God trusts those who can see beyond the now. There is a quiet authority settling over your life. Authority does not announce itself. It is recognized. It does not need to dominate. It influences. You will notice that your presence carries weight even when your words are few. This is not personality, it is alignment. When inner life and outer life agree, power flows naturally. God is aligning you so completely that resistance will begin to weaken simply because you are present. You have learned that faith is not denying reality, it is trusting God beyond it. Faith does not ignore difficulty, it interprets difficulty through divine promise. You no longer panic when challenges arise. You pause, you listen, you respond. This response is evidence of maturity. God is not looking for emotional reactions. God is looking for faithful responses. There will be moments when you are tempted to return to old patterns simply because they are familiar. Familiarity can feel safer than growth. But you are no longer who you were when those patterns formed. Returning would feel uncomfortable now, and that discomfort is intentional. It is the signal that you have moved forward. Honor it. Do not negotiate with what God has already delivered you from. God is also teaching you the power of restraint. Not every truth needs to be spoken immediately. Not every battle needs to be fought publicly. Not every challenge requires your energy. Restraint preserves strength. Strength directed by wisdom produces lasting impact. You are learning to choose your moments, and that choice multiplies effectiveness. As God expands your influence, you will encounter expectations that attempt to shape you into something you are not. Resist them gently but firmly. God did not design you to fit a mold. God designed you to fulfill a purpose. Authenticity is not optional when carrying divine assignment. Compromise dilutes clarity. Stay true. You are beginning to understand that provision follows purpose. When you move in alignment, what you need appears when you need it. This does not mean absence of challenge. It means sufficiency within challenge. God does not always remove obstacles, but God always supplies the strength to navigate them. This understanding removes fear. Fear cannot survive where trust is established. There is also a refining of your desires taking place. Some things you once wanted intensely no longer hold the same appeal. This is not loss, it is clarity. God is aligning your desires with destiny. What does not serve purpose fades naturally. What does serve purpose gains weight. Let this process continue without resistance. You are being invited into deeper partnership with God, not as a passive recipient, but as an active participant. Partnership requires listening as much as acting, humility as much as confidence. God speaks not only through direction, but through conviction. Pay attention to what brings peace and what creates unrest. These are signals guiding your steps. You will find that gratitude becomes more natural as trust deepens. Gratitude is not denial of difficulty, it is recognition of faithfulness. When you acknowledge what God has already done, confidence in what God will do increases. Gratitude keeps your heart aligned even as circumstances evolve. There is a stability forming within you that external chaos cannot easily disturb. Stability does not mean absence of emotion, it means presence of trust. You may feel, but you are no longer ruled by feeling. You may question, but you do not abandon faith. This steadiness is the foundation upon which lasting impact is built. God is preparing you to carry responsibility that requires wisdom, patience, and compassion. Authority without compassion becomes control. Compassion without authority becomes ineffective. God is balancing both within you. This balance allows you to lead without dominating, to guide without manipulating, to influence without coercion. You are learning that obedience sometimes means choosing what is right even when T is unpopular. Approval is temporary. Alignment is eternal. God honors those who choose truth over convenience. That honor may not always be immediate, but it is always enduring. As your journey continues, remain attentive to the subtle ways God communicates. Guidance does not always come loudly. Sometimes it comes as an impression, a restraint, a nudge towards stillness. Do not ignore these moments. They are invitations to deeper trust. You are not walking blindly. You are walking by faith, sharpened through experience. Every step you take now carries intention. Every decision is informed by growth. This is not accidental. This is preparation reaching maturity. God is still unfolding what was planted long ago. Layers of purpose continue to reveal themselves. Each step forward brings new understanding, new responsibility, new opportunity. Stay present within the process. Stay anchored in trust. Stay open to guidance as the journey continues to expand beyond what you once imagined. There is a sacred awareness beginning to rise within you. An awareness that you are no longer merely reacting to life, but cooperating with purpose. This shift changes everything. When you react, you are always behind circumstances. When you cooperate with God, you move ahead of them. You are learning to sense direction before disruption, guidance before confusion, peace before clarity. This awareness is not intuition alone. It is alignment cultivated through trust. God sharpens perception in those who listen more than they speak, who observe more than they assume. You are also learning that obedience does not always feel powerful in the moment, but it always produces power in the outcome. Man, why abandon obedience because it lacks immediate reward? But you stayed. You continued. You trusted. And now the reward is not just something you receive, it is something you become. God values who you are becoming more than what you are acquiring, because who you are becoming determines how long what you receive will last. There is a holy discipline forming in your inner life. Discipline not rooted in fear, but in reverence. Reverence for purpose, reverence for calling, reverence for the trust God has placed in you. This discipline is what separates momentary success from lasting impact. It keeps you grounded when elevation comes and focused when distractions multiply. God entrusts influence to those who can govern themselves before governing anything else. You are beginning to recognize that opposition is not always an enemy. Sometimes it is a mirror. It reveals what still needs strengthening, what still needs surrender, what still needs trust. Instead of resenting resistance, you are learning to extract wisdom from it. This posture turns challenges into teachers and setbacks into strategies. God uses what opposes you to position you more accurately. There is also a purification of motive happening within you. You are no longer driven by the need to prove, to impress, to compete. You are driven by purpose, by obedience, by faithfulness. This purity of motive clears confusion. When motive is clear, direction becomes simple. God honors pure intention because it keeps power from becoming corrupt. You are stepping into a phase where silence will speak louder than argument, where consistency will speak louder than explanation, where fruit will speak louder than defense. D. S is the language of maturity. God is teaching you that not every misunderstanding requires correction. Time and truth work together when patience is present. Your relationship with time itself is changing. You no longer view time as an enemy to race against, but as a resource entrusted to you. You are learning to invest time rather than spend it, to honor seasons rather than resist them, to understand that haste often reveals fear, while patience reveals trust. God moves outside of time, yet works within it. Learning this balance is wisdom. There is a deepening of compassion within you as well. Compassion not born from sympathy, but from understanding. You understand struggle because you lived it. You understand delay because you endured it. You understand uncertainty because you walked through it. This understanding equips you to serve without judgment and lead without arrogance. God refines pain into empathy when hearts remain open. You are also becoming more comfortable with responsibility. Responsibility once felt heavy because you were still discovering your strength. Now it feels appropriate because your strength has grown. God does not overwhelm, God equips. What once intimidated you now invites you forward. This is evidence that capacity has expanded. There will be moments when your faith is tested not by hardship, but by success. Ease can challenge devotion just as much as difficulty. Remember that the same trust that carried you through struggle must carry you through abundance. Consistency of character matters in every season. God watches how you manage increase as closely as how you endure lack. You are learning to listen beyond words, to patterns, to into atmosphere. Discernment is becoming instinctive. You sense when to advance and when to wait, when to speak and when to observe. This sensitivity protects you from unnecessary battles and guides you toward effective action. God communicates through more than instruction. God communicates through alignment. There is a growing clarity about what truly matters. Noise is losing its influence. Distractions are losing their appeal. You are choosing depth over display, substance over speed, purpose over popularity. These choices are not accidental. They are signs of readiness. God prepares those who will not be easily diverted. You are also learning to honor rest as an act of faith. Rest declares that you trust God's ability to work beyond your effort. Rest restores perspective. Rest renews strength. Rest aligns you with divine rhythm. Those who ignore rest eventually lose clarity. Those who embrace it gain endurance. As you continue forward, remember that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. It frees you to serve without insecurity and lead without fear. God lifts those who remain grounded. Elevation without humility is temporary. Elevation with humility is sustainable. You are becoming a living witness to the power of perseverance guided by faith. Not loud perseverance, but steady perseverance. Not dramatic faith, but enduring faith. This kind of faith reshapes environments quietly and deeply. God moves through those who remain faithful long after emotion fades. Your journey is unfolding layer by layer, moment by moment. Each step reveals more of what was planted long ago. Stay attentive, stay obedient, stay grounded. God continues to work, continues to shape, continues to prepare what has been set apart for you, and the unfolding is still in motion. Now hear this with the full weight of your spirit awakened. You were never meant to live an ordinary life powered by borrowed courage and borrowed faith. You were designed to walk in deliberate alignment with God, to live with intention, to move with conviction, and to stand with confidence that does not come from circumstance, but from trust. What God has placed within you is not fragile. It has endured pressure, silence, delay, and fire, and it still stands. That alone tells you something undeniable. God is not finished, and what remains is stronger than what was lost. This is the moment to stop negotiating with doubt and stop making peace with fear. Fear has had enough influence. Hesitation has taken enough time. You have learned what you needed to learn. You have been shaped where you needed shaping. Now the call is clear. Step fully into alignment. Not halfway, not cautiously, fully. Let your choices reflect your trust. Let your actions confirm your faith. Let your life testify that when God speaks, obedience follows. Examine your heart honestly. Where have you settled out of comfort rather than conviction? Where have you delayed obedience, waiting for certainty that only comes after movement? Where have you allowed old narratives to speak louder than divine purpose? This is not a moment for condemnation. It is a moment for clarity. God does not expose to shame. God reveals to rest. Oh, what you acknowledge, God can realign. What you surrender, God can transform. Renew your commitment, not to an outcome, but to obedience. Outcomes change, seasons shift, circumstances evolve. Obedience anchors you when everything else moves. Decide today that your life will not be driven by fear of loss, but by confidence in God's provision. Decide that your faith will not depend on visible proof, but on internal conviction. Decide that your steps will reflect trust, even when the path unfolds gradually. Draw closer to God, not out of desperation, but out of devotion. Not because you are lacking, but because you are becoming. Let prayer be your first response, not your last resort. Let gratitude shape your perspective. Let humility guard your strength. Walk forward knowing that God does not call without equipping, does not promise without fulfilling, does not prepare without purpose. And as you go, remember this deeply. What God has done in you is already rare, but what God is about to do through you will be unmistakable. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to force it. Live aligned, live faithful, live surrendered, and let the unfolding speak. Let your life become the evidence that when God decides to do something that has never been done before, no resistance can stop it, no delay can cancel it, and no doubt can diminish it. Walk forward now with courage anchored in trust, with faith refined by experience, with purpose clarified through surrender. God is with you, God is guiding you, God is working beyond what you can see. And as you move, let these truths remain alive within you. What God has begun will stand. What God has spoken will endure. And what God is doing through, you will echo far beyond this moment.